Welcome to the Unlocking the Club podcast, where we host honest and direct conversations about journeys of access, personal truth, and reclaiming space. We share our truth so that you can find the key to own your truth, honor your journey, and reclaim your space. Grab your keys, your wallet, your phone, and invite your friends to meet you at the club. Here's your host, Angela Taylor.
About what you love doing, inviting people into your home and connecting folks, and you want your kids to have these memories that they'll pass on to their kids with the things that you're creating. I'm curious, beside your own home, what's a place that you feel safe to be yourself?
Ooh, a place. I want to do two places because they are like equal. My car. I often pull into my garage and do not leave my car for a while. Sitting there, it's almost like sitting in my mind.
Yeah.
And it helps me like decompress and prepare for whatever's coming when I walk into my home. And then the other place is the forest, like hiking and being in nature and surrounded by green. And I went hiking the other morning and ran into 6 deer. Like that place is magical to me. So those are my two like favorite places.
Oh my gosh. Like you just brought that home for me because I love being in the car and just driving. Like, so if I'm driving to where I grew up in Mountain Home, which is 45 minutes away, there's so many ideas just being in the car by myself that come to me. And then hiking for sure, that fresh air and just not having your phone on and hopefully the reception not being great. It just allows you to center yourself. Very powerful. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Welcome to Unlocking the Club, the podcast that explores the depths of self-discovery, of empowerment and personal growth by inviting our listeners and our guests to unlock your truth, to share your story, and to reclaim your power. I'm your host, Angela Taylor, and today we have a really special episode that delves into a topic that I've been unpacking a little bit recently as I reconcile my own journey, both professional and personal. And that topic is psychological safety. Not necessarily using that formal terminology, but I now recognize that I've been noticing and naming those instances where I actually did feel safe to be myself, whether it was a job or a group of friends or work colleagues, where I could exhale and didn't have to feel like I had to show up a certain way. And then I've also noticed and named those times, and early on in my career, this happened quite often, but noticed and named those times where that was not the case, where I had to do a little bit of compartmentalization or some code switching. So as you just heard in the show opening, during my conversation with Ramona Jackson, the Bourbon Bohemian, in episode 21 entitled Unlocking Your Inner Explorer, we actually shared a similar experience of using that alone time in the car or time in nature, whether it's hiking or at the beach, with ourselves to reclaim that power, to unlock our truths. And in a world where there's so much going on around us, where we don't have much time just to be alone with our thoughts, I found out that actually carving out time, whether it be a couple of minutes at the beginning of the day or a couple of minutes at the end of the day, but carving out that time to just be alone with myself and my thoughts is truly rejuvenating. And it's during those times where I'm able to unlock my inner explorer. So as I've mentioned in recent episodes, for a book club, we read the book Trust by Hernan Diaz. And there is that juxtaposition that Hernan mentioned in his book with a juxtaposition between your public facade and your private persona. And since reading that sentence in that book, it has been percolating with me in so many different ways about how I actually have had this public facade in order for me to protect my private persona. And I realized that ideally we're actually able to find those sanctuaries or those spaces, those clubs where we don't actually have to compartmentalize or code switch. And as Ramona so vibrantly shared during our conversation, sometimes we actually need to explore new spaces and places in order to discover those sanctuaries or what we need in that particular moment, who we need to be around at a particular point in time. In a world that often fails to acknowledge the unique experiences and challenges faced specifically by Black women, finding spaces where we can truly be ourselves is vital. So today, we're actually going to amplify the importance of psychological safety, of finding those spaces, those clubs, those places where you are free to be yourself. And we're going to discuss various ways to actually cultivate it. But don't just take it from me. Take a listen to another perspective.
Wow. It's supposed to be quick. I've been with my life partner for 34 years. He is my ride or die. He loves me no matter what. He has loved me when I didn't love myself. And so I feel safe in his presence, staring in his eyes and in his arms.
That was New York Times bestselling author Julie Lithcott-Hames, who joined us on episode 5, Unlocking Self-Love Through Storytelling. And it was so clear from her answer that Julie's life partner is someone who truly sees and hears her. And what is true for me is that feeling of not feeling or being invisible or being ignored, but being seen and heard is invaluable. If you've ever had someone unapologetically walk right in front of you when you're in line at the department store, or as you're waiting to grab your luggage off the conveyor belt at baggage claim, you'll know what it feels like for Black women who are ignored. Or if you're in a boardroom and in a conversation and you bring up an idea or a thought or a topic and it's ignored, and then 5 minutes later, someone else brings up that same idea and it's listened to and it's validated. Like Julie, our incredible guests from previous episodes of Unlocking the Club have shared their perspectives on where they feel safe to express their true selves. Their stories remind us that psychological safety is not only essential, but it's attainable. And if you're a regular listener, you'll recall that this topic definitely comes up in the Back Nine segment and oftentimes is touched on throughout the conversations that we have with guests. We actually had a similar discussion with Cassandra Knight during episode 11.
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably Stanford Stadium.
Tell me more.
Oh, like you mentioned a lot earlier, we love our tailgates, right? Where we can just cut loose and talk. I love talking about the games with you and Gary and the rest of the crew down there, that we could just scream and let loose at the games, whether it's out of joy or frustration. And so I love it. It takes me back to my youth, and it's just so joyous.
I agree with you. There's something magical about the place, and it's so refreshing to be in that space with others who are high achievers, who are doing great things. And we put it aside on those Saturday afternoons just to celebrate our team, whether we're Andrew Luck good or right, not so good.
Right.
Just be in each other's company.
That's right.
Yeah. During my conversation with Cassandra, or Sandy, in episode 11, Unlocking Unexpected Opportunities, we talked about how magical it is to break bread at a tailgate in the parking lot outside of Stanford Stadium before and after football games, whether it was back in the day during Andrew Luck taking us to the Rose Bowl or Orange Bowl times, or more recently when COVID has decreased the number of people that come out to tailgates. But what I remember so vividly, as Sandy mentioned in her statement, was that there are people of different races and ethnicities, of different ages, genders, interests, and a common bond. And that common bond was our love for Stanford and Stanford football. We're just connecting. And to a certain extent, we were actually free to just show up fully right there in the parking lot as we were eating burgers and sipping on different beverages and preparing to go into the stadium to watch a game. So another way to create those spaces, from building supportive networks to creating safe spaces at work, we found some great clips from my conversation on this show. And so throughout today's episode, we'll actually explore various avenues to finding psychological safety, your sanctuaries, your own clubs. While we unlock the club, what we're finding is we actually have the ability to create our own clubs, which are those sanctuaries, which are those places where we can feel free to be ourselves. So today we're actually going to unlock that sense of home many of us seek, as Shantara Harding so eloquently stated during episode 4, where we unlock being invited to the table.
I dance anywhere, so if anybody knows me, there's that. But just with my family, home. Most of my family is still back home. I'm here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Most of my family is back home in Ohio. And that for me is a place that allows for all of me, good, bad, and in between. So home.
How many of you have at least one space that allows you to bring all of yourself, good, bad, and indifferent, as Shantara recalled her home vibe is. Well, real talk, the code switching many of us do is exhausting. And sometimes I know that I don't even realize the depths and the effects of my code switching until much later. Like Shantara, I reclaimed my home when I returned to Idaho 7 years ago to be close to my parents. But sometimes it isn't so convenient. I was able to do it because I'm an entrepreneur and I was able to pick up my business and my work and I could do it from anywhere. But prior to that, I wasn't able to. When I was working for somebody else, when I was working in the WNBA, whether it was for the league office for different teams, I had a tiny window of opportunity to visit home, if you will. It was during the holidays or during the summertime or maybe for a long weekend. And it wasn't so convenient. I think for many of us, being able to reconnect with home, wherever that may be, may not be easy. So when we don't have the luxury to be in close proximity physically to your home and to the friends and family members who provide you with a space to truly be yourself, we have to find a way to design that space, even if it's virtually. And that has been a blessing to me. And I look forward to sharing how the amazing guests that I've had on this show have also been able to find home. We'll also discuss the power of self-care, the benefits of therapy, and the importance of educating ourselves and of others. By arming ourselves with knowledge, we can foster those environments that prioritize psychological safety for Black women. And by doing so, we'll be able to demonstrate how to find spaces and places for everybody where you can be at peace with oneself, where you can actually connect with who you are and you can show up authentically. So whether you're a Black woman searching for spaces of psychological safety or an ally actually seeking to better understand and support the journey of Black women in your life, this episode's for you. So thanks for tuning in to Unlocking the Club today as we unlock those sanctuaries where it's a safe place to be ourselves. Welcome back to Unlocking the Club. I'm your host, Angela Taylor, and it's important for me to share that being more intentional about prioritizing those spaces that are healthy for me to engage, that has really been a transformative experience for me. It's allowed me to fully embrace my perspective, to unlock my superpower, if you will, to find my purpose and to contribute my voice to the world. And so I'm hoping that in today's conversation, it may be the catalyst to similar intentionality for you as well. And my guess is that by hearing from these powerful Black women who are willing to reveal how and where they actually find sanctuary, that you'll be inspired, you'll be motivated, and you'll be equipped with the tools to actually create those spaces where psychological safety thrives. Timothy Clark, many of you may know, an author. Timothy wrote a book outlining the 4 stages of psychological safety and how they are interdependent on one another. And those 4 stages are inclusion safety, that sense that we all need to be included or to belong. It's Maslow's hierarchy, really. The second stage is learner safety, which is a space where it's safe for us to learn, safe to try, safe to fail. Third stage is contributor safety, where you're encouraged to contribute knowing that you're bringing value. And the 4th stage is this challenger safety, where it's safe for you to challenge the status quo. And in essence, psychological safety is when you feel included, when it's safe to learn, when it's safe to contribute, and safe to challenge the status quo, all without fear of being embarrassed, marginalized, judged, or punished in some way. Ironically, my guest, Anuka Brown, alluded to each of those stages when she glowingly acknowledged all of the spaces where she's free to be herself during episode 16, Unlocking the Power Shift.
Amongst friends, it's interesting. I have a core group of women who I've known since high school.
Nice.
And we are connected at the hip. We spend an unbelievable amount of time together and talking and gifting to each other. And these are 5 white women.
Nice. That's awesome. Who would think?
Yeah.
Right?
Then I also have a group of women, Black women, who I balled out in the streets of New York and Philadelphia and all over. Went to AU tournaments in Vegas and played a 3-on-3 world championships. in Texas, we have been everywhere together, and we're growing old together. And so I break bread with them, spend time with them, mentor them. They mentor me. It's that space where we can so keep it real. And then I also have a group of several Black female executives that have been that are currently working in sport, working throughout the mentoring world, developing young Black women and Black men, women that are doing incredible things. And we get together, and that's our lean in circle. And we talk about these things, and we spend every year we go away for 3 or 4, 5 days, and we spend time. And then I have a group of young people I mentor, and that's my opportunity to work with them and work on our future. And most importantly, I break bread with my kids and my sisters. And that is probably where I get my greatest strength, because that's where the bloodlines come into play. That's where we talk about our history as Indigenous peoples of the United States. That's where we talk about our history of Guyanese men and women with my father. That's where we talk about our history with my mother and her grandmothers, and they were Native Americans, but they were also Black women who cleaned houses and raised children for white folks. We talk about all of that. So my greatest strength comes right here from my family.
It's amazing, and underscores how important it is for us to find our community, right? The community where you can exhale, where you can relax and unwind and be real and authentic and candid, and that invite you in, right? Where you don't have to feel like you're banging on the door of the club. You're actually setting the tone for the club. I love that. There were so many things that resonated with me as Anuka was talking about all of the spaces that she finds this safety to be herself, where she is able to connect with herself and with her mission, her life's purpose. And I think that we can find safety and belonging in some unexpected places, certainly with maybe your siblings or your lifelong friends, with your family members, where you can just cut up and relax, possibly at work with colleagues that have something in common, a shared lived experience or a shared love and passion for the work that you're doing. Perhaps it's with a group of friends from high school, and that's a very different group than it is from your group of friends from college or other experiences that you've had. We can find that safety in a lot of different places. And I know for me, there are different spaces at different times that I find myself in intentionally. So I think it's really important for us to paint this tapestry of what is required and what helps us to fill that cup, for us to be able to exhale and unwind and relax, connect with ourselves, appreciate the little things that we're doing, appreciate what's next, appreciate the little things. And I think that my tapestry, or I guess I should say a quilt in honor of our guest, Cassandra Knight, and her ancestors' quilting skills. But I think my tapestry varies in a lot of similar ways to Anuka's. My college teammates from Stanford are very dear friends who I rely on for a lot of guidance and advice, as well as just being able to connect. My high school friends, again, we have this lived experience in Mountain Home in a small community. And when we get together, there's something that's cathartic and peaceful about being able to be in the same space. There's others that I've had connection to who've experienced loss, and being able to know the unspoken experiences that we're all having and sharing. There's people that I've connected to that actually had a similar injury. I tore my ACL, MCL, and cartilage in college. And there's this little sorority, if you will, a fraternity of people that have had knee surgery. There's sports industry executives who I connect with on a regular basis or keep me in tune with what's happening in the sports industry. And then certainly family and work family. We create a space at the Dignitas Agency on a monthly basis where our team and our team of consultants and delivery partners come together. And what we found is that we didn't have to come up with a topic every time that we were in conversation with each other on a monthly basis. As a matter of fact, People were just enjoying coming together because the work that we do in equity, diversity, inclusion is so exhausting that sometimes it's nice to be able to come together and share and support one another. Simple things like that, understanding what comprises your quilt or your tapestry so that you know when you need to make that phone call or you need to get together with that group of people at a particular moment in time when you need to fill your cup, you can immediately go to it. And when I think about that first stage of psychological safety where you need to feel included, I'm reminded of the joy in I'm reminded of the joy on Renee Brown's face when she talked about her family. And for Renee, who was a guest on episode 13, Unlocking Your True Self and Shine, whose gift is her ability to connect with everybody. She's a people person. I think she's a unicorn with that. I think her definition of family has to be pretty broad. But let's listen to where she finds space to be her true self and who helps her amplify her shine.
I think I'm fortunate because I have a large family. And for a while, I wasn't myself because they saw me as a sports executive, right? And then I'm like, wait, come on, this is my family. So a lot of times with any of my family members and my closest friends, and I think that we got to find spaces where we can just be who we are, like, because we're always on. And you got to find a place where you can just take a break. And then you got to ask yourself, why can't you be yourself in the spaces where you spend so much of your time?
So as you can tell from listening to Anuka and Renee, family, friends, work colleagues that have that similar common interest, those can be the spaces that help us fulfill that first stage of psychological safety, and that is inclusion safety. But when we think about inclusion safety, that does not mean that we are simply surrounding ourselves with people who will tell us what we want to hear. I actually believe that people who are willing to tell you the truth and where you're open to actually hearing their point of view, it's important for you to have a space or place where you can surround yourself with those individuals so you can get to the truth. It may not feel comfortable all the time, but I actually believe that you're better able to build trust and to be vulnerable in those situations. And it may be a designated group of people for one specific reason or cause. But if you find those spaces where people are willing to tell you the truth, wow, what can that create for yourself? But I also wonder why we don't prioritize the space where we can actually be ourselves. And that's one of the objectives of this podcast, Unlocking the Club. We talked about in one episode with Beverly Oden about her being club adjacent, that she never felt like she belonged in the club. And I think she is ahead of many of us. I don't think that she ever felt like she needed to be in the club. And being club adjacent was just fine because it allowed her to create her own clubs. And I'm proud to think that in our short time of doing this podcast, we've actually been really successful in being that space, a cathartic space where my guests can feel comfortable to be in real, authentic conversation. A perfect example of that was, in fact, in episode 2, Unlocking Your Authentic Voice, with Beverly Oden, who actually shared that she never really wanted to have kids and had mentioned it for the first time publicly on Unlocking the Club. Ironically, later on in the conversation, it wasn't so surprise. That revelation by Beverly was part of a group of friends who helped her create that sanctuary we've been talking about. Here's a bit about where Beverly feels safe to be herself.
Oh, wow. Gosh. Okay, that's interesting. I would say with my 50 plus church lady buddies who have never been married and don't have kids, right? Mm-hmm. So we are similar in so many ways. And I think that the society has told us we shouldn't have done it like this and this is wrong and we're missing something. But in that space, it's so comfortable and so warm and so welcoming and so normal. Okay. So that's probably what I'd say.
How invaluable is it to find a space where you can exhale because you're having a similar lived experience, where you have complementary core values or common goals? So stage 1, inclusion safety, is when you're part of a team. You have a team of allies, as my good friend Trisha talks about, and you don't have to worry about being othered because you've constructed your own club. From inclusion safety, we go on to learner safety. And I think it's important to acknowledge that we all bring these inhibitions or anxiety to the learning process. Those limiting beliefs like, I'm the only one, it's hard, I've never done this before, I don't know how. Like there might be a lot of limiting beliefs that prevent us from getting through this next stage because we don't have that learner safety. But it's essential that we actually find those spaces in which we can experiment, where we can make mistakes and fail forward and fail fast. Our brilliant first guest, Michelle Goodwin, talked about the spaces where she is engaged in the discovery process during episode 1, Unlocking the Real Stories of Black History. Take a listen.
It's a good question. If we were saying a place in geography, it's probably Italy. If we're picking some place in the world, and if we're picking some place that's an institution, I'd say that probably a library.
I can imagine. You're consuming a lot of information over the course of your career. So the library.
Yeah, libraries just feel like safe places, and in the garden, right? Both of those spaces have real meaning for me in my life.
I have to chuckle every time I listen to some of the first episodes. Michelle was actually the first guest on Unlocking the Club about a year ago in May was when I spoke with her. And I would love to actually revisit that question with Michelle to find out when she first recognized that the library and or the garden were the places that provided a sense of safety to her. I think there's a lot behind the story that led her to understanding that the library was such a powerful place for her to be in. And I actually want to explore like why certain friends groups or certain locations or certain activities are cathartic or safe for me to be myself as well. I think you all should do that. It might be a fun journey to take. If I had a guess when I'm thinking about Michelle, I imagine the library was actually a place that allowed her to escape into the realm of possibility. Oprah Winfrey talks about this a lot. The reason why she's a voracious reader is because it allowed her to escape her reality. And so when I think of Michelle and that library, maybe it allowed her to escape that realm of possibility, whatever was happening in her life at that particular time, which really speaks to how well versed she is on so many topics, because she has been so studious and a voracious reader and was able to plug into things that really resonated with her, particularly around reproductive rights. I also am intrigued by the fact that the garden is another quiet space that she enjoys. And I know for myself, it's a place where I'm able to connect with my thoughts. It's so peaceful and serene in the garden when the sun is shining on you and you're seeing nature take its course. When you're seeing you plant a seed and you start to see it flourish. When you hear the birds chirping and you see the bees buzzing, it is really a fun place for you just to be alone with your thoughts. So when I think about learner safety and I think about what Michelle offered, I think learner safety implies some sort of engagement. And I think that is actually what happened for Michelle in the library for sure. But I also think that discovery and engagement also happens for me in the garden, for others at the beach, for others long walks or bike rides and unique places, as others often discussed. One of which was Marissa Renee Lee in her quick response to my question during episode 24 of Unlocking Black Women in Grief.
The beach. I love the beach. I love being close to water.
Yeah. And I know water spoke to your mother as well. So
Yes, you got it.
For Marissa, she also wrote about the role water played in her mother's life. The beach or bodies of water serve as serene backdrops for many of us to learn about ourselves and the world. I always wonder, when do we allow ourselves to be curious? Do we reserve that curiosity for those private moments? I know I used to, because I was afraid people would judge me about things I didn't know about. So if there was something that came up, if someone had mentioned a phrase or a word or term that I wasn't familiar with, I would jot it down and wait till I had a moment to Google it and find out more about it. And the truth is, others may judge us anyway, but if you crave learning, and if you find those clubs that actually empower you to feel safe to learn, those spaces will nurture you and give you permission to try. And again, when you try, you can fail, right? But you fail fast and you fail forward. Once we've navigated both inclusion safety and learner safety, we actually move on to contributor safety. And this is a space I sense that many of us, particularly those of us at a certain stage in our journey, endeavor to be in. Richard Brooks, who is a professor at Harvard and wrote a book called Strength of Strength, talks about this. At a certain stage in our journey, we go from maybe our technical expertise to the need to be able to share our wisdom. And so we can contribute in a variety of different ways. Maybe at a certain stage in our life, it was literally a technical role that we played. And later on in our life, it may not feel the same way that we're used to, but we have to be able to realize that we're still able to contribute. And I think that it gets back to the sense that we all want to be able to bring value or to demonstrate our worth, have conversations with colleagues on boards that I serve on. And one of the biggest challenges is making sure that they feel like they are actually contributing and bringing value in the role that they have on that particular board. And I think that this stage, this contributor, it feels like a stage that happens in concert with the work that you're doing or the role that you may be playing in your company, in your family, or in your friends group. And I know, speaking for myself, I can remember times where I wasn't sure if I had contributor safety. Oftentimes in those situations, I found myself trying to prove my value. Proving is something that can be debilitating, and it has you showing up in ways that actually may not be working in the direction that you're hoping that it'll work. And as a Black woman, I think this happens a lot. Renee Brown mentioned during her episode those moments where others actually try to steal her shine. And you may be interacting with someone who is biased or arrogant or insecure, and that makes it really difficult to find safety to contribute. There were actually a couple of guests who brought two different perspectives to this contributor safety stage, I believe, as I listened to their podcasts. First, in episode 9, Unlocking Social Capital in America, Amelia Hardy mentioned a place that empowers her to get in touch with who she is and the value that she brings.
Beside my home. Oh, wow. I would say that besides my home, I love the beach and just the ocean and the calmness and experiencing that with friends and family. There's something about the power of the vastness and the depth of the ocean that intrigues me. It's something that it's something that I'm mesmerized by, but also it just brings me great peace. So I think there is where I've been most introspective and unlocked like some true authentic things about myself.
Piggybacking on that, what do you do to center yourself, whether it's while you're at the beach or in other ways? Because we know mindfulness is so important, particularly with the work that you're doing.
Yeah, very spiritual. So praying, meditation. I've gotten into my Calm app at night. I like to take walks, especially when the weather is nice. So I'm in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and around November, my walks stop. And then I dread it until they start again when the weather is better. About May, actually April, May. But I love to be outside. Again, it's about being introspective, having nature around me, the warmth of the sun on my skin. Just something about that gives me a peace and allows me to really think. Sometimes you just need space to think.
As an executive in the Minneapolis St. Paul community, during those social unrests that transpired after George Floyd's murder, almost exactly 3 years ago, as of the taping of this podcast, it was imperative that Amelia find a space and a place where she could tap into her power and her voice so that she can contribute to the change at her company, Best Buy, and in her community. I think that listening to Amelia, having those peaceful places and connecting to nature, earth, wind, fire, water, sometimes that helps us to escape, but also to find the strength to contribute, to find out what our value is, to determine what it is that we want to bring to the table. And I also think that the places and the people who give you room to think and be introspective, really invaluable to be in those spaces. Again, I have some friends group that allow me to bounce ideas off of them. And sometimes they know when just to listen, and sometimes they know when to give me advice or to give me feedback. And I think in a different manner from what Amelia experienced in this contributor safety and knowing how she can go to tap into her intuition, if you will. I think in a different manner, I was actually inspired by the clarity with which Judge Monica Wiley had when she talked about the space where she feels safe to contribute during episode 6, Unlocking the Judiciary System.
Oddly enough, on my bench. On my bench, I have a lot because I have so much control there.
Interesting. I love that. Wouldn't have expected you to say that. Tell me more. So what is that experience like?
Because I can do the right thing every single day. Every case that I have, I can do what I think is the right thing for a family. And I think that, or a child. And that is incredibly, it's just humbling. It's a humbling experience. Yeah. And I have control. So I think that's where I feel safest.
Every time I listen to that excerpt from Monica, I get inspired. It was really inspirational to hear her clarity that she had about why she is at the table and what she's doing when she's at the table. And I think that in a predominantly white and male judiciary system, Monica has navigated inclusion safety, learner safety, and is crushing it with contributor safety as she is clear about her purpose to use her power to affect change. In fact, to truly affect change, I think Monica must challenge that status quo, which leads us to stage 4, psychological safety, building on the previous 3 stages. That stage is challenger safety, which is when you're willing to risk your reputation or standing to speak truth to power. Again, you're willing to risk your reputation or your standing in order to speak truth to power. And in order to get into a mind frame where she's able to challenge the status quo, a true polymath, Lenora Williams Clark connects with the ancestors, as we learned during episode 15, Unlocking Your Inner Muse. Can you talk a little bit about your studio and how important it is to you and you making that choice? I'm wondering, besides your home or your studio, where's the place that you feel safest to be yourself?
I would say, so I'm an artist in residence at 3 places. So one is on the eastern shore of Maryland, and my mentor and good friend Bernard Demchuk owns several acres, and he calls it Giverny West, which is modeled after Monet's Giverny. There's the same bridge, is a replica of the bridge, is on the water, and it's the land where the slaves escaped.
Oh, wow.
And so I feel Harriet, I felt like there's no, like, I became the muse there. Like, it's such powerful experiences have happened to me there that it's the place that my soul lives there. Yeah. And so definitely one of the safest spaces in my life.
Wow. Like
Giverny West.
I felt that when you said my soul lives there.
Oh.
And I think that when you pause to reflect and to notice, like, you'll be able to recognize those spaces that give you that, where your soul lives there. I think so often we're in a hurry to get to the next thing.
Yes.
Right? Versus just like consuming where we are fully in that moment. So I love that's where you found your muse. It was so powerful listening to Lenora speak of that physical space as I was listening live to her when we were in conversation. And there's no doubt that we can gain a tremendous amount of courage simply by remembering the resiliency and, frankly, the anti-fragility that our ancestors have exhibited. For Lenora, challenger safety starts with being present and connected to the past, present, and future. Similarly, in episode 29, Unlocking Empowerment Through Style, Salita C. Roberts speaks about how she connects with herself and challenges the norms by connecting with our culture.
Oh, this is going to sound, as I said, I'm a Caribbean girl. And this has nothing to do with my professional life. The place that I feel safest to be myself is Carnival. If you know anything about Caribbean Carnival, so this is not, I know in the US, it's Carnival is like where you go and you have dates and stuff like that. No, I'm talking about Carnival. Google, if you're listening to this, Google Antigua and Barbuda Summer Festival, Carnival, Trinidad, any of those Caribbean countries, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It is like the most liberating feeling that I've gotten, because I play, just full disclosure, I play mass as well. So if you Google and you see what a costume looks like, I wear those costumes. And I think part of my body acceptance and really accepting the body that I'm in. I'm super petite. I'm 5 feet. I wish that I was taller. I wish that I didn't look like a teenager. Carnival reminds me that who I am is who I am, and there's a level of beauty in that. I always feel there's a level of joy that I feel. It connects me to who I am, and I feel free. It's freeing. I'm trying not to, because I don't want to go too much into what Carnival is. Your listeners can go Google Caribbean Carnival and see what that is, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But it allows a part of me that I don't get to, obviously in a professional setting, don't get to express that side of me. But I'll let you know that I love Carnival. I'll let you know that I wear a costume, and it's literally what you'll see. Like, I'm in my birthday suit, so to speak, in a costume, right? Feathers and everything, and just going down in a parade and just having a fantastic time with strangers that I've never met, and we having that community and that camaraderie in that moment. And that's where I feel, one of the places I feel like I can be myself as well.
Just listening to Salida talk about Carnival makes me want to go and experience it for the first time as well. What I recognize are a few different things. First, sometimes we actually just need an excuse to let loose. But when we have this fear of being judged, we aren't willing to do so. So we may not have the inclusion safety, we may not have the learner safety, we may not have the contributor safety. And so we're not willing to let loose. Carnival represented that for Salida, and actually for our guest recently on our podcast, Agatha Richardson, who talked about going to Carnival and what it presented for her as well, and that promise that she made to her mother before her mother passed away. When we look at those spaces that tend to be judgment-free zones, again, with certain friends groups or colleagues, and or individual places that you can go to, the beach or to on a hike, those are really important for us to be able to show up fully as well. And I'll remind you of a point I made earlier in the conversation. Judgment-free doesn't mean that we don't have someone challenge what we're intending to do. It doesn't mean that we just surround ourselves with people that aren't going to tell us the truth and aren't going to speak the truth to us. But judgment means that they're not going to hold it against you. I also noticed this really palpable somatic energy that Salida displayed when she spoke at Carnival. And just talking about it actually brought that same feeling to her of being there. And so really important for you to think about, what are those spaces, the places, or the people who provide that essence to you too? Challenger safety is a space where you can be innovative and creative. And when you are completely unencumbered, as at Carnival, you're actually able to shift those limiting beliefs into breakthrough beliefs. As you listen to the clips from our guests, think about those spaces where you have inclusion safety, learner safety, contributor safety, and challenger safety. How do you feel when you're in those places? Are there other spaces you should seek? Are you able to create a similar space for the others in your life where they have psychological safety with you? We'll actually talk about how you can find those sanctuaries and how you can create those sanctuaries for others in just a few moments as we return on Unlocking the Club with the Back Nine. Welcome back to the Back Nine on Unlocking the Club. I'm your host, Angela Taylor. We've just heard from over a dozen guests from Unlocking the Club who've unlocked the sanctuaries where they have psychological safety and where they are safe to be themselves, but there is no finish line. We're operating in a volatile, uncertain, chaotic, ambiguous world, so our efforts to build our clubs and our sanctuaries must be dynamic as well. So here are 10 takeaways that may actually help us all find those sanctuaries where we're safe and free to be ourselves. In no particular order, just find one or two that resonate with you and start to make sure that you build that club. Here are 10 ways for Black women to find spaces where they can experience psychological safety. First, seek out affinity groups. Look for organizations or communities or online forums that actually specifically cater to Black women. I was doing a search on Facebook the other day for private Facebook groups for Black women specifically. They're all over their place. They're in your local community. They may be in your workplace, and you certainly can find them online. Second is engage in therapy or counseling. Sometimes we're stuck and there's something that may prevent us from being able to connect with ourselves, to actually understand who we are. And so maybe find a therapist who understands the unique experiences and challenges faced by Black women. Therapy can really provide a confidential and supportive environment to process all of those emotions and to find healing for yourself. You have to be in a healing space before you can be in that change space. Therapy for Black Girls is a great site you can go to. You can find their website. They have a lot of therapists that you can check out. And just being in conversation with someone where you don't have to explain what may be going on in your life. The third thing is to build a supportive network. Surround yourself with individuals who actually uplift and validate your experiences. Again, going back to Julie Lithcott-Hames and her life partner, where she is not invisible, where she's seen and heard, she is validated. You can cultivate those relationships with family members, friends, mentors, whoever can help you understand your perspective and actually is willing to create that safe space for you. The fourth thing you could do is to attend events and conferences. Actually look for events and conferences that focus on empowering Black women. And these gatherings can provide opportunities to connect with like-minded individuals and create a sense of belonging. Some of those, again, Carnival in Trinidad Tobago is a place that Iantha and Salida have found that is great to be around Black people and Black women as well. Fifth thing is you can join social justice or advocacy groups. If you engage in organizations that promote equality, social justice, or those things that are important to you, sometimes it's nice to connect with people that have a similar purpose in life. And particularly if it's working toward that goal, it could be really powerful to be in a space. It might be a community garden. So finding a local community garden and being in a space and at work with those individuals can be really powerful too. Next is exploring virtual communities. As I mentioned, there's a ton of spaces for Black women on Facebook, and I'm sure you can find it in other places as well. Tap into your network and find out of any of these virtual support networks that may resonate with you. Seventh thing is create safe spaces at work. Like whether it is a group of people, one or two people, or a larger group that you want to go out to lunch with. And maybe on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, you carve out time to make sure that you have a lunch, or maybe you show up for work and you have coffee together. Or if it's virtual and you're working virtually, you can figure out a way for you to connect on a regular basis. I think we spend so much time at work. I think it's incredibly important for us to figure out ways in order for us to have a safe place to be ourselves at work as well. Eighth thing is that you can find culturally affirming activities. Whatever it is that you want to connect to, you can find that. Again, for our guest, Cassandra Knight, when she moved to New York City, one of the first things that she did was find a quilting group. And quilting was something that had been passed down in her family for decades and generations. And so finding that culturally affirming activity was a way for her in this new city, all the way across the country from her family and friends, for her to feel connected. The ninth thing is you can actually prioritize self-care. What are some of those activities that allow you to be in self-care, in wellness, in a good space, supporting both your mental and emotional well-being? This could be meditation, journaling, engaging in hobbies, or just relaxing at the spa or on nature walks, as Ramona mentioned. And then lastly, you could educate yourself and others. When you educate yourself and others about what it is that you need when you're creating your own club, it invites them to do the same thing as well. It also, as you share your experience or your knowledge or these insights that you have from your life, it actually may help you find a new way to connect with others and create psychological safety for others that may feel like they're alone in their journey. And I know you all know what I'm speaking to when I mention that. So those are 10 things, and I'm sure there's more that you can do to create that space where you are free to be yourself. But remember that finding those spaces of psychological safety, it actually may require a combination of both exploration, self-advocacy, and building supportive networks. Sometimes it's nice to not have to do it alone, but I recognize that my journey is going to be very different from your journey. Each of our journeys is unique. So it's essential for you to find out what works best for you. As you work to find your sanctuary, it's important to understand that this also isn't a one-way street. Reciprocity is required. If there's a space or a place like the beach or a pond or lake or a river or mountain that you're hiking, if there's a place that you consider a sanctuary, you must acknowledge the land that you are on. If you're in spaces and there's people in those spaces with you that are helping you feel safe to be yourself, it's also your responsibility to reciprocate, to create safety for them as well. Don't always enter into those conversations wanting to be the only one who's seen and heard. Make sure you're creating room and space for others to be seen and heard as well. Now, I'll admit there are times when you need to be the center of attention, where you need everyone to focus on what's going on with you so that they can help you navigate a challenging situation. But if you're willing to do the same for others, then that certainly is going to be a space that you'll be able to sustain. So many ways for us to create psychological safety, so many ways for us to be in wellness, to be prioritizing ourselves and finding those spaces where we're actually able to and free to be ourselves. I hope that this is helping you. I hope that this is something that has benefited you on your journey. And I hope you will continue to listen to Unlocking the Club as we continue to unpack different things such as psychological safety and creating space that we need, as we continue to be in conversation with a group of amazing individuals who are willing to come on the show and share their story as they unlock their truth. And hopefully, as a result, help you reclaim your power, and they will be able to do the same. I'm your host, Angela Taylor. Thanks for joining us for this special episode of Unlocking the Club. Please make sure that you subscribe to Unlocking the Club on whatever platform that you listen to your podcast or on YouTube, and share it with your friends and family. We'd love to make sure that we continue to share this important message with as many people as possible. Thank you again, and until next time, be well.
Thanks for listening to Unlocking the Club. If this conversation resonated with you, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or your favorite streaming platform so that you can experience every episode. And follow us on social media, where you'll hear about future guests, access special features, and connect with this amazing community. Head on over there and let us know how you are unlocking the club. Until next time, peace.